They said love could move mountains. But what happens when that love turns into obsession, betrayal, and bloodshed? In this story, we peel back the layers of a picture-perfect relationship, only to find rage boiling just beneath the surface. This is Crimes of Passion, a murder born not from malice, but from madness. It was just after 7 a.m. when the neighbor called 911, two lifeless bodies in a blood-soaked bedroom. But this wasn't a robbery. There were no signs of forced entry. Whoever did this was already inside. Nestled in the quiet, upper-class suburb of Elk Grove, California, the Whitmore residence sat like a postcard-perfect home. A two-story colonial with ivy-trimmed windows and an immaculately landscaped front yard. It was the kind of place that screamed normalcy and comfort. But on the morning of April 2, 2023, that perfect image shattered, literally and symbolically. At exactly 7:14 a.m., police received a frantic 911 call from next-door neighbor Melissa Hayward. I heard screaming last night, but I thought it was just the TV. This morning, the front door's open. I looked inside and, there's blood. Oh my God, there's blood everywhere. When first responders arrived, they found what could only be described as a scene from a horror film. Dean Whitmore, 42, a respected financial advisor, and his wife Vanessa, 39, a popular yoga instructor and social media influencer, were found dead in their bedroom. Dean was lying face up on the bed, a deep gash across his neck, blood soaked into the mattress and pillows. Vanessa was found on the floor beside the bed, her head cradled in her own arms, as if she tried to protect herself before the final blow. She had been stabbed multiple times in the chest. The master bedroom showed signs of a struggle. A lamp was shattered. One of the closet doors had been torn off its hinge. Broken glass littered the hardwood floors. And yet, oddly, there were no signs of forced entry, no valuables taken, and no indication that this was a home invasion. Detective Evan Malone, lead investigator from the Sacramento County Sheriff's Office, was among the first to walk the scene. It didn't feel random. It felt intimate. Rage-filled, yes, but personal. You don't stab someone that many times unless you know them, or feel something for them. Within 24 hours, the case gripped the media. The Whitmores weren't just any couple. They were Elk Grove royalty. He was the kind of guy who bought the whole neighborhood Girl Scout cookies in one afternoon. She was the community's sweetheart, organizing charity yoga events and posting motivational videos about love, forgiveness, and marriage. Their friends described them as inseparable. Their Instagram showed them on tropical vacations, celebrating anniversaries, cooking together in candlelight. Dean captioned one photo, "Still the only woman who makes my heart race, 15 years later." But photos lie. And everyone lies on social media. In the days that followed, detectives dove headfirst into their lives. What they found contradicted everything the world thought it knew about the Whitmores. According to Vanessa's sister, Rachel Martin, things had been tense for over a year. Rachel told detectives that Vanessa had once confessed she felt trapped. She said Dean had changed. That he got jealous easily. That she couldn't talk to male clients without him going off. She said she loved him, but she was scared of what might happen if she ever left. This revelation changed everything. Investigators obtained phone records, financial statements, and eventually a court order to access both Dean and Vanessa's personal messages and emails. What they found suggested that their marriage was unraveling behind the scenes. Vanessa had been texting someone under a fake contact name, Candlelight. The messages were flirty, emotional, romantic. They dated back almost 6 months. This was no passing flirtation. Someone else was in the picture. Someone who might have had motive. Meanwhile, forensic specialists confirmed there was no forced entry, no unfamiliar fingerprints, and no sign the security system had been triggered. Whoever entered that house did so with ease. With trust. Even more chilling, Vanessa had dialed 911 at 3:16 a.m., but the call never connected. Only a single second of static was recorded before it cut off. Her phone was found beneath the bed, shattered. Surveillance footage from surrounding homes showed no vehicles coming or going between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. that night, adding weight to the theory that the killer was someone already inside. And then came the most damning clue of all. A journal. Vanessa's journal. Found inside her walk-in closet beneath a box of scarves. The final entry read, "He found out. I think he knows everything now. I shouldn't have let it go this far. I never wanted anyone hurt. I just wanted to feel alive again." It was dated April 1, 2023, one day before her murder. Back at the precinct, the detectives mapped out 3 primary theories. Dean snapped. He discovered Vanessa's affair and killed her in a jealous rage, then possibly committed suicide. The lover was involved. Jealousy turned to violence, and the mysterious candlelight eliminated both Vanessa and Dean. Someone close to them, maybe even family, wanted revenge, inheritance, or closure. But toxicology reports showed no drugs or alcohol in Dean's system, and the autopsy confirmed both he and Vanessa were killed by the same weapon, one that still hadn't been found. That ruled out a suicide. This was a double homicide. Someone had come in, executed them, and vanished without leaving a single fingerprint. The community of Elk Grove went into panic mode. If the killer wasn't an outsider, that meant the killer was still inside their community. And the Whitmores? They were no longer symbols of perfect love. They were the opening act in a tale of deception, obsession, and blood-soaked romance. To the outside world they were soulmates. But inside their home, behind the designer curtains and Sunday smiles, their love was rotting. And someone knew their darkest secrets. The Whitmores were the kind of couple that made people believe in happy endings. To friends, family, and nearly 20,000 Instagram followers, Dean and Vanessa were the picture of marital bliss. Yoga at sunrise, brunch dates at the country club, surprise vacations to the Amalfi Coast. But as detectives dug beneath the filters and hashtags, they found something far uglier: resentment, distance, and a slow-burning storm no one saw coming. Detective Evan Malone was convinced early on, this wasn't random. This wasn't a home invasion. This was personal. But to prove that, he and his team had to untangle the lies from the truth. And the Whitmores had plenty of both. Vanessa's sister Rachel, who had originally painted Dean as controlling, returned to the station with an old iPad Vanessa had left at her place a few months earlier. On it were audio recordings and journal entries that hadn't been touched since February. One recording was dated February 9, 2023, Valentine's Day week. Vanessa's voice crackled through the speaker, quiet but panicked. "He's not the man I married. He watches my location, questions every client I speak to, and last night, he went through my phone while I was sleeping. He found the text. I lied. I told him it was nothing. But I think he knows." In another recording, she cried softly as she said, "I should leave but I can't. He said if I ever took my things and walked out, he'd ruin me. He said, if I can't have you, no one will." That line stopped Malone in his tracks. Dean wasn't just jealous, he was obsessed. But this painted a dilemma. Was Dean the abuser and Vanessa the victim? Or was it all part of a toxic, escalating dynamic between two people clinging to a dying marriage? Detectives interviewed the couple's close circle of friends, those who had been at the Whitmores' infamous wine night just 1 week before the murder. Most said the couple seemed normal, affectionate even. But two guests, Travis and Mila Jennings, shared something chilling. Dean got a little drunk, Mila recalled. He started ranting about trust. How too many relationships fall apart because people open doors they can't close. It was awkward. Vanessa kept looking at the floor. Travis added, "Later that night, I caught Dean on the balcony alone. He was just staring. I joked, 'You good man?' He didn't laugh. He just said, 'Some people don't deserve second chances.' Then he walked away." The more the detectives listened, the more it became clear. Dean knew something was wrong. And Vanessa was terrified of what might happen if the truth came out. But what was the truth? Forensic techs were now focusing on Vanessa's messages with the mystery contact, Candlelight. The texts ranged from poetic to explicit. They spoke of longing, of regret, and of fear. "He's watching me more closely now. I think we should pause. You shouldn't have sent flowers to the studio. What if he saw? When this is over, I want to wake up next to you." The burner number traced back to an unregistered prepaid phone. No address, no name. But the tech team pulled signal pings. The phone had been in Elk Grove on at least 7 occasions in the last 2 months. Once, it had pinged within 3 blocks of the Whitmores' home. On the exact night Vanessa sent a message that read, "I can't sneak out tonight. He's not asleep." While searching through Vanessa's old belongings in the house, detectives found a partially torn envelope behind the fireplace mantel. Inside it was a letter, half-burnt, ink smeared by what looked like water damage. But what was legible was devastating. "I can't do this anymore. I feel like I'm dying a little more every day. I thought I loved him. I thought we could fix it. But I was wrong. I love you. And I want out." It wasn't signed. But the handwriting matched Vanessa's journal. The last line was scorched at the bottom, but you could barely make out 3 haunting words. "Before he kills?" Detective Malone's mind raced. Kills who? The lover? Himself? They needed answers. And they needed them fast. News of the Whitmore murders had exploded across the Sacramento Valley. Reporters camped outside the police department. True crime bloggers speculated about secret affairs, inheritance motives, and murder-suicides. The public clung to the mystery. How could this happen to such a perfect couple? But those who knew Dean and Vanessa intimately had a different response. Shock, but not surprise. One of Vanessa's yoga students, Emily Tran, came forward anonymously. "I once saw her crying in the locker room. She said, 'He doesn't hit me. But sometimes I think that'd be easier.' I didn't know what she meant back then. Now I do." Another tipster, a neighbor who asked to remain unnamed, told police they had seen a slim man in a hoodie leave the Whitmore property at around 3:30 a.m. the night of the murder. But no footage confirmed the sighting. And the man never looked up at any camera. By the end of the second week, the case had narrowed into 2 tracks. Dean discovered the affair and killed Vanessa in a fit of rage, but someone else killed him. A jealous lover killed both, Vanessa for staying and Dean for standing in the way. But nothing was conclusive. Detectives still didn't have the murder weapon. They still didn't know the identity of Candlelight. And they still didn't know what, or who, Vanessa meant when she wrote, "Before he kills." As the investigation intensified, it became increasingly clear. One person held all the answers. The mysterious third party. And soon, they'd make their presence known. Her name wasn't in the will, but it was all over the evidence board. An ex-lover with a motive, a history of instability, and a score to settle. And now the police had a name, one that would blow the entire case wide open. 3 weeks after the brutal double homicide of Dean and Vanessa Whitmore, investigators were no closer to solving the case, or so it seemed. The media was frenzied. The public demanded answers. And Elk Grove, once a tranquil suburb tucked beside Sacramento, now felt like a pressure cooker ready to burst. Detective Evan Malone stared at the whiteboard in the incident room, covered with printouts, screenshots, and photos, strings of red yarn connecting names, dates, and locations like a web waiting for its spider. At the center, Dean and Vanessa. Just off to the side, circled in red with a question mark, was a name that had just emerged from digital forensics. Leah Avery. She had been a ghost until now. It began with a breakthrough. Cybercrime specialists traced a deleted email from Vanessa's old cloud backup. Though it had been scrubbed, forensic software recovered fragments of an exchange. The sender's email was a pseudonym, but the IP address wasn't. It was registered to a Leah Avery, 29 years old, a former college classmate of Vanessa's at San Diego State University. They had once been roommates, and at one point, something more. Leah was now living in a modest apartment in Citrus Heights, just 40 minutes away. She had no criminal record. She worked part-time as a veterinary assistant. But what piqued interest wasn't her proximity, it was the tone of the emails. "You promised me this wasn't just a game. I kept your secrets. You owe me more than silence, Nessa. He doesn't love you like I do. He never could. I swear to God if you go back to him I'll lose it. Don't test me." The last one was sent 5 days before the murders. Digging deeper into Vanessa's college years, detectives discovered Leah and Vanessa had shared more than a dorm room. According to a mutual friend, the two had a deep and complicated relationship. It was intense, the friend said. They were always together, like they didn't need anyone else. Leah fell hard. I think Vanessa didn't know how to handle that. After college, Vanessa moved to Los Angeles to begin her career. Leah stayed behind, and the two fell out of touch, until about a year ago when Vanessa started reaching out again. The timeline aligned suspiciously close to when Dean reportedly began showing signs of jealousy and emotional distance. Had Vanessa reignited an old flame behind her husband's back? Or had Leah never fully let go? Detectives brought Leah in for questioning. She didn't lawyer up, at least not at first. She appeared calm, almost eerily so. Wearing oversized glasses and a shapeless gray sweater, she spoke in a monotone that betrayed very little emotion. But when presented with the recovered messages, her eyes flickered. Malone asked, "When's the last time you saw Vanessa Whitmore?" Leah replied, "A few weeks ago. She invited me to a yoga retreat. We had dinner. That's it. Did you love her?" Pause. Then, more than she knew. It wasn't a denial. Detectives pressed harder, presenting Leah with a copy of the partially burned letter found behind the fireplace. Her face turned pale. She leaned back in her chair. And then she said something chilling. She was going to leave him. We made plans. But she backed out, again. She always did this. She wanted both worlds and I wasn't enough. I was never enough. Was motive. Clear. Raw. And dangerous. Still, Leah denied any involvement in the murders. She claimed she had been home alone the night of the killings, binge-watching crime documentaries with her cat. There was no one to corroborate her story. No surveillance cameras around her building. No digital proof of her exact location. But there was something else. A traffic enforcement camera in Elk Grove caught a silver 2010 Toyota Corolla parked 2 blocks from the Whitmore residence at 2:49 a.m. on April 2nd, the night of the murder. The plate was partially obscured by rain, but DMV analysis matched the vehicle to Leah Avery's registration. When confronted with the photo, Leah's facade cracked. I was driving around. I needed to think. Think? At 3 a.m.? Outside their house. I didn't go in. But the police weren't convinced. Detectives searched Leah's apartment. Hidden beneath a pile of laundry in the back of her closet, they found a sweatshirt, soaked with dried blood. The DNA results wouldn't come back for a few days, but the discovery was damning. They also uncovered a notebook filled with sketches and obsessive writings. Fantasies of Vanessa leaving Dean, of them escaping to another country, of cleansing the world of him. One passage read, "He stands in the way of everything. Maybe I need to do what she can't. Maybe I'm the only one who really loves her." Leah was arrested and charged with suspicion of murder. But even as she sat behind bars, she maintained her innocence. "I didn't kill them. I was angry. Yes, but I loved her. I still do." As the news broke, Elk Grove spiraled once again. The public had their other woman, their motive, their mental instability. It all fit. Or did it? Forensic teams still hadn't located the murder weapon. Blood analysis showed traces on Leah's sweatshirt, but none matching Vanessa or Dean conclusively. And most curiously, security logs revealed that Dean had changed the code on the Whitmore's alarm system just days before the murder. A code only one person would have known, his own. If Leah didn't enter using a key code, then how did she get in? Unless she didn't, and someone else was still out there. Someone the detectives hadn't yet considered. One was having an affair. The other knew about it. And the third? The third was willing to kill for it. Passion had become a weapon, and the trigger was about to be pulled. The arrest of Leah Avery should have been the end of the case. She had motive, opportunity, and a disturbing journal filled with fantasies about ending Dean Whitmore's life. But the deeper Detective Evan Malone looked, the more he realized, things weren't adding up. Yes, Leah was obsessed with Vanessa. Yes, she lied about her whereabouts. And yes, her writings were unnerving. But something was missing. The narrative was too neat. Too convenient. And then, in a sealed USB drive retrieved from Vanessa's yoga studio, everything shifted. The USB was found inside a ceramic elephant on Vanessa's office shelf, one that cracked open during a property search. On it were hours of video content, old recordings of classes, brand content, meditations. But buried among the folders was one file, labeled only for Rachel. Detectives watched it in silence. Vanessa sat in front of a ring light, face bare, voice trembling. "If you're seeing this, something has happened. I'm sorry, Rachel. I didn't know how else to explain what I've done. You know I've always tried to be good, but I made mistakes, so many." She paused, inhaling sharply. "Dean found out about Leah. He knew. I confessed. And he said he forgave me. But it wasn't forgiveness. It was control. He started tracking me, recording me, saying I owed him, that he had nothing to lose anymore. And then," her voice cracked, "he said he wanted to bring someone else in. That if I could cheat, so could he. That we should open the marriage, balance things out. I said no. He didn't care. His name is Jason. He was our house contractor. And now he won't stop texting me. Jason. A new name. A new player." Jason Carr was a 35-year-old general contractor from Folsom who had worked on the Whitmore's home renovation from October to December the previous year. Rugged. Quiet. No criminal record. But a search through Vanessa's texts confirmed she had been receiving increasingly aggressive messages from him for the past 2 months. "Why aren't you answering? You said you felt it too. He doesn't satisfy you. I know you. I watched you. If he doesn't appreciate you, I will. Just say the word." One message, dated the night before the murder, read, "You can't ghost me, Vanessa. I know where you live." Detectives brought Jason in for questioning. He wore a smirk that teetered between arrogance and deflection. When asked about his relationship with Vanessa, he initially denied any involvement. But when shown the text messages, his posture shifted. "We had a thing. Brief. I didn't force it. She came to me. She was lonely. You don't know what she went through with Dean. And what happened the night she died? I was at home, watching UFC with my brother. That alibi didn't hold. Jason's brother, Daniel Carr, initially backed the story. But when detectives reviewed his phone data, it showed he had been at a casino with friends in Reno that night, 3 hours away. Jason had lied. Following the motel clue uncovered from Leah's notes, detectives pulled security footage from local inns in Elk Grove and the surrounding areas. At 2:12 a.m. on April 2nd, a man matching Jason's appearance checked into the Red River Lodge, less than 6 miles from the Whitmore's home. He paid in cash. No ID. But the security camera caught him pacing in the hallway, speaking angrily on the phone. When audio was enhanced by forensics, fragments of the call became audible. She thinks she can cut me off? Like I didn't matter? No. I'm not letting this go. The phone used couldn't be directly traced, it was a burner. But the timestamp was chilling. Jason left the motel at 3:03 a.m. Dean and Vanessa's estimated time of death? Between 3:10 and 3:25 a.m. Malone stood in front of the whiteboard again, overwhelmed not by the lack of suspects, but by too many of them. Leah, emotionally volatile, jilted, obsessed, jealous. Jason, possessive, lied about his alibi, threatening behavior. Dean, controlling, manipulative, and reportedly unhinged in his final days. And Vanessa? She had been entangled in emotional warfare from every direction. She had tried to escape. But passion, twisted, toxic, and territorial, had cornered her. A new forensic report came in. The blood found on Leah's sweatshirt did not match Vanessa or Dean. It belonged to a male. A DNA database search delivered a direct match, Jason Carr. When confronted with the results, Jason cracked. His cool exterior vanished. He demanded a lawyer. But before one arrived, he muttered, "I didn't mean to kill her. I just wanted to scare her. Dean was supposed to be out. I didn't think she'd scream." Detectives froze. It wasn't a full confession, but it was enough. They had their killer. Or did they? Because new evidence was about to surface that changed everything again. There's always a moment when rage takes over. When reason fades and something primitive kicks in. For the killer, it happened just hours before sunrise. And what happened next would redefine everything investigators thought they knew. The pieces were finally falling into place, or so it seemed. Jason Carr had motive, proximity, and damning words on record. His DNA was found on the sweatshirt recovered from Leah Avery's apartment. But something still didn't sit right with Detective Evan Malone. Why would Jason stash the sweatshirt in Leah's closet? Unless he didn't? And that one question reopened everything. While awaiting full toxicology reports, the forensic team examined the location of the blood spatter patterns in the master bedroom. Something wasn't matching up. The angle of the spray, the direction of the droplets, it all pointed to the killer being left-handed. Jason Carr? He was right-handed. So was Dean. But Leah Avery? She was left-handed. That detail pulled Leah back into the spotlight just as Jason was being processed for second-degree murder. Was it possible the crime was a two-person job? Detectives reconstructed the timeline from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. 10:17 p.m., Vanessa texts a friend from yoga class, "I think I've made things worse." 12:45 a.m., Jason checks into the Red River Lodge, pacing, angry, calling someone. 2:49 a.m., Leah's Corolla is captured 2 blocks from the Whitmore house. 3:03 a.m., Jason checks out of the motel and vanishes off camera. 3:16 a.m., Vanessa attempts a 911 call. 1 second of static. 3:17 a.m., the estimated time of the first fatal blow. 2 people. Same moment. 2 motives. 1 crime. But only 1 killer. Under mounting pressure, Jason folded. In a second, more carefully monitored interrogation, his story changed. "I didn't kill her. I went there to talk, to make her see what she meant to me. I brought wine and a knife. It was stupid. I was desperate." Desperate was an understatement. Jason confessed to letting himself in through the side gate, one Vanessa had forgotten to lock. He snuck into the kitchen and waited. But Vanessa was upstairs with Dean. "I didn't expect him to be home. I panicked. I left." Then he dropped the bombshell. "Someone else was already there when I got there. I saw a shadow upstairs. I thought it was him. But now, I think it was her. Leah." Just when the investigation seemed tangled beyond repair, the tech team pulled a miracle. They recovered a deleted audio file from Vanessa's iPad, an automatic voice memo accidentally recorded via her meditation app. It started as calming background noise. Then came voices, arguing. "Vanessa, you can't just show up. "This isn't love, Leah, it's obsession." Leah screaming. "You promised me. You said it was me in the end. You were supposed to leave him." Then Dean's voice. "What the hell is going on in here?" Followed by a shattering sound. A scream. And silence. The file stopped at 3:18 a.m. Just 1 minute after Vanessa's failed emergency call. Investigators now believed Leah entered the house before Jason. She may have even hidden somewhere inside, waiting for her moment. She confronted Vanessa. Dean intervened. The confrontation turned fatal. Jason arrived minutes later and found the aftermath. He ran. Afraid he'd be blamed. Afraid he'd be tied to what he thought Leah had done. But there was one fatal flaw in Leah's plan. She didn't know about the recording. Detectives issued a second warrant for Leah Avery. When they arrived at her apartment, she was already gone. Her car was missing. Her phone, turned off. Her last internet search? Can you flee the country with a felony warrant? But fate caught up with her. 2 days later, Leah was spotted in Bakersfield, attempting to board a long-distance Greyhound bus under a false name. She was arrested without incident. Inside her bag were 3 burner phones, $4,800 in cash, and a blood-stained scarf. DNA matched Vanessa's. Leah sat across from Detective Malone, her expression hollow. The once obsessive lover, whose letters painted a romantic tragedy, was now just a frightened, broken woman facing life in prison. "I didn't mean to kill her," she whispered. "I just wanted her to say it to my face. To admit she used me. That she never loved me. But she wouldn't. She looked at me like I was nothing. Like I was a mistake." She paused, voice cracking. "And Dean, he tried to grab me. I didn't plan that. I snapped." Leah confessed to stabbing Dean first, not Vanessa. Vanessa tried to run. But Leah stabbed her too. The motive wasn't revenge. It was heartbreak. Rejection. Love turned rabid. In the end, both Jason and Leah were charged. Jason with obstruction, unlawful entry, and tampering with evidence. Leah with 2 counts of first-degree murder. During the trial, Leah's confession and the audio file were played in court. The room sat frozen. The jury foreman cried. The judge looked shaken. Leah Avery was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Jason Carr received 18 months in probation. But the damage was done. 2 lives lost. 2 more shattered. All for one reason. Love. Or something that tried to pass for it. The trial revealed everything: twisted passion, desperate lies, and a confession that left the courtroom silent. In the end, it wasn't about love. It was about control and the terrifying lengths someone will go to, just to not be forgotten. The Sacramento County Courthouse overflowed with spectators, reporters, and family members clinging to whatever closure the trial might offer. After 4 months of grief, investigation, and nationwide speculation, the murder of Dean and Vanessa Whitmore was finally headed to trial. At the center of it all sat Leah Avery, the former college roommate, unrequited lover, and now confessed killer. But as the trial unfolded, it became clear. This wasn't just about 2 lives taken. It was about the anatomy of obsession, how unresolved love, emotional vulnerability, and rejection can become a volatile chemical reaction with deadly consequences. The prosecution didn't hold back. District Attorney Maya Campos stepped forward, her voice unwavering. This was not a crime of impulse. It was a crime of passion, yes, but one rooted in calculation, fantasy, and premeditation. Leah Avery did not just kill Vanessa and Dean Whitmore, she stalked them. She inserted herself into their lives. And when she couldn't have the woman she loved, she made sure no one else could either. The courtroom was silent. On the defense side, Leah sat stoically, wearing a navy blue blazer and no makeup, her hands trembling as her lawyer began laying out their version of events. Ms. Avery suffered from years of untreated emotional trauma. She did not go to that house intending to kill anyone. She acted in a moment of overwhelming psychological distress, provoked by betrayal, heartbreak, and fear. But the evidence said otherwise. The jury heard the audio recording from Vanessa's meditation app. In it, Leah's rage was undeniable. Her voice cracked, screamed, pleaded, then grew eerily calm just before the sounds of violence erupted. There were gasps in the courtroom. Vanessa's sister Rachel broke down sobbing and had to be escorted out. Then came the digital trail, the obsessive messages, GPS data placing Leah near the house at the time of the murders, and perhaps most damning of all, the scarf with Vanessa's blood, found in Leah's getaway bag. The prosecution ended their evidence presentation with a single image. A burned photograph of Vanessa and Dean, partially scorched but still intact. She tried to destroy them. But love, real love, can't be erased that easily. In a risky move, Leah's defense team placed her on the stand. For the first time, the jury and the public heard the killer's story in her own words. She told me she loved me once, Leah said, eyes glassy. And I believed her. I built my world around that one moment. I know now, it was foolish. But at the time it felt real. She said she was unhappy. That she needed out. We talked about running away. She paused, then added, but when she changed her mind, when she said she wanted to try again with Dean, I snapped. Not because I hated her, but because I couldn't imagine life without her. I felt erased. Like I never existed. Tears slid down her cheeks. But the courtroom remained cold. Rachel, now seated again behind the prosecution bench, stared directly at her, lips pressed into a tight, trembling line. After 6 days of deliberation, the jury returned with a verdict. Guilty. 2 counts of first-degree murder. As the judge read the sentence, life in prison without the possibility of parole, Leah didn't cry. She simply nodded as if she already knew how the story would end. The courtroom exhaled. Outside, cameras flashed, journalists reported in real time, and Rachel stepped forward to speak on behalf of her family. This wasn't love. This was control. My sister wasn't perfect. But she didn't deserve to die for wanting to feel free again. She tried to do the right thing in the end. She just ran out of time. Though initially charged with obstruction and tampering, Jason cooperated with investigators. He took a plea deal in exchange for full testimony and served 18 months in county jail, followed by probation and mandated psychiatric counseling. He later gave a television interview in which he admitted, I was selfish. I didn't care who she was married to. I only cared how she made me feel. But I never wanted anyone dead. That's not something I can ever wash off. His name was cleared in the homicide, but not in the public eye. Jason moved out of state under a new identity. In Elk Grove, things slowly returned to normal. But the Whitmore house remained unsold, sitting empty like a shrine to what once was. Locals claimed to see lights flickering at night, movement in the upstairs window. A neighborhood that once idolized the perfect couple, now viewed their story as a cautionary tale. Not all love is romantic. Not all passion is pure. And sometimes the person who claims to love you most is the one who ends you. Detective Malone stood in front of the now cleared evidence board, the photos finally taken down, the red strings removed. He turned to his partner and said, we always say crimes of passion are sudden. But this one? It brewed for years. That woman didn't kill out of impulse. She killed out of loyalty, to a version of love that never really existed. What began as friendship turned to obsession, and ended in tragedy. The case of Vanessa and Dean Whitmore proves that sometimes, love doesn't just hurt, it kills. If you were gripped by this story, there's more where that came from. Check out our playlist of shocking true crime stories, from unsolved mysteries to jaw-dropping twists. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a case.